Now, before we start, let me give you one piece of advice that I give to all the newbies who come to my stream looking for answers in DFO. A lot of your questions can be answered by not being afraid to play the game. You do this and you'll solve about 90% of all newbie related problems. How do I make money? Play the game and it's hard not to. What skills should I get? Play the game and you'll figure it out. How do I level? You guessed it. Play the game and drain your FP to level. I'm not saying you're doing it optimally, but I am saying you can't be deadlocked if you're not scared to just play the game. It's easily possible to be successful in DFO and get to the max level relatively quickly if you can do just that, even if you choose to ignore the rest of the content in this guide. It's kind of sad that I have to often remind people that you aren't getting a prize for knowing all the strats, following the meta, and being the most optimal. Just play the game and don't feel compelled to have to do it right as a newbie. Try to experience the game first, will ya? Because you don't get to the point a lot of us have at the end game by treating it like a day job or a problem to be solved. But anyway, I want to start our discussion with a rather sour topic for some people. Fatigue points, or FP for short, is a point system that controls how much dungeoning that you can do in a day. You use 1 FP per room for standard dungeons, and most non-standard dungeons such as special dungeons, Mount Cullen, raid normals, and guild dungeons will use 8 upon entry. If you think about it, FP is the one and only limiter towards how fast you can level in this game. Your leveling rate is directly proportional to how efficiently you can utilize your daily FP that you have. By using a combination of all the strategies that I'm going to give you, as well as abusing all of the possible means to replenish your FP, you'll ultimately have all the ingredients needed for leveling as fast as humanly possible in this game. I'm talking some dungeon fighters getting to the max level in just a couple days. But let's be real, you aren't completing that feat. Instead, simply using all of your FP should be your main priority, not making sure that you use it efficiently. I often ignore all of my own strategies, but as long as I use my FP, I can comfortably get to the max in a little bit more than a week. Recovering FP will be covered in the next video of the series where I go over leveling items, but for now, let's talk about another potentially controversial subject, Neopremium. Now, I didn't want to start this video off in the cash shop, but I really have to. Neopremium is the feature of the game that a lot of outsiders looking in can already feel the pay to win aspect coming into play. It's a subscription type item that gives a ton of perks while it's active. Look at them here. The standard amount of FP is 156. You're getting 234 with basic and a whopping 273 with plus every day. You get 10% extra EXP, and if you get the plus version, you get access to a rental weapon, which is amazing for leveling up because it's slightly upgraded and scales to your level. The Neopremium contract honestly cannot be ignored with benefits like these. Now, before you go crying foul, let me show you how much Neopremium Plus that I have. Yes, that's about half a year's worth, and I can assure you I've never purchased Neopremium Plus once since it's been released. The same can be said about all of these contracts and all of the premium items. Never bought any of them directly. What I have done though is play almost every day and participate in every event. That's how you get to this point. Neopremium Plus is also relatively self-sustaining. For that reason, always try to get yourself the Plus version whenever possible. While you have Plus active, Neopremium tokens drop in dungeon. You can use these tokens at Canna's shop, which has a small but heavily abusive chance of getting another week of Neopremium Plus. Basically meaning so long as you're playing and getting tokens, it's highly possible to never run out of Neopremium Plus. It's been ages for me, but I do believe that you can purchase a trial version of Neopremium Plus with gold for your first time as well, giving you a perfect opportunity to start farming more by using tokens and participating in events. Now that you've got yourself Neopremium contract, let me warn you about the biggest noob trap in the world, and that is FP Express. You can activate it by hitting this checkmark here while you have Neopremium contract active. Once upon a time, I used this feature with impressive results, but those days are long past us. With the scenario system, you should almost never consider using this feature. On paper, it looks good. It says you can use double of your FP and receive double experience, but the fact of the matter is you hardly get any experience from killing mobs and clearing dungeons. Instead, most of your experience is coming from your quests called Scenario, which we'll talk about in a sec. In a given day with a finite amount of FP, you want to do the most scenario quests possible to maximize how much total EXP that you'll get. An active FP Express effectively means that you're only completing half the dungeons that you could, which dramatically reduces your total EXP gain. Don't use FP Express unless it's under one of these circumstances. It's your last dungeon of the day, whereas FP is literally done anyway. You simply don't have all the time to use all of your FP otherwise, Or lastly, you're out of scenarios and you have to grind a dungeon, preferably a special dungeon. If you do happen to be in a situation where you're using FP Express, then it's highly recommended to do full dungeon clears to at least get maximum benefit for it, though again, only under these circumstances. DFO used to follow the age-old method, main quest and simply repeating the same dungeon and layout and grinding until you leveled. About a year after the game's release, however, dungeon fighters were introduced to a completely new means of approaching the game's leveling system, dubbed Scenario Mode. Overall, the actual dungeoning experience has not changed. You still go through dungeons, kill all the mobs, and kill the boss. The difference is more in their approach of how you do that. You go in a unique dungeon layout every time, and progress in a linear fashion, fighting mini bosses until you reach a logical conclusion of the story in a battle with the final boss. It's hard to summarize, but it definitely flows much nicer in terms of gameplay and story, without getting too repetitive with the same mobs and layout. The key point to make here in terms of leveling though is scenario quests make up almost all of your total EXP. I'm talking upwards of 60 to 80%. I already brought up this point a second ago with why you don't turn on an FP Express. You need that FP to clear more scenarios. Even all of these tips that I'm about to give towards getting a little bit more EXP is like icing, whereas scenarios make up the whole cake. So always keep scenarios in the forefront of your mind while playing. A scenario is based off of a main sequential questline, which is tied to a region on the map. This questline is unlocked once you meet the minimum level requirement, and thus it's possible to have multiple scenario questlines active at any one time. Now, while scenarios are incredibly efficient for EXP, not all scenarios are created equal. The higher level the region, the more effective the scenario quests become. Early on, your scenario quests may not seem to be all that important. In fact, the dungeon clearance may actually be higher. However, as you level and switch from one region to the next, you will progressively receive higher EXP rewards for them, to the point where they get to the absurd levels that I alluded to. Take this fact into consideration, because when you are efficient with your FP, your items, and events going on, it is very easily possible to begin over leveling a region and unlock the following scenario in the next region of the game, for again an even larger boost in quest EXP. In the case that you have a higher leveled scenario quest, you will have unlocked the option to automatically complete the previous scenario quest line. This of course will not reward you with any EXP, but can prove useful, as sometimes completing the previous scenario may be the prerequisite before being granted access to the next, although I personally wouldn't go that far unless I knew for a fact that I didn't need the EXP. Only use this feature with heavy caution. Sharing is caring, guys, and that fact is most laid bare when we talk about scenario sharing. Scenario dungeons allow for regular party play by merely following the party leader's scenario. However, there is one massive benefit. When a scenario quest is completed, all members of the party receive that quest EXP as well. In other words, the party leader scenario quest is shared directly to all party members. Free EXP. This is where scenario system truly shines, because if you find a scenario that gives great EXP, there is a massive potential for abuse, since you can repeat it one time per party member simply by switching the party leaders around. There are some strategies and rules that you should be aware of though when attempting this strategy. If it so happens that party members are on the exact same scenario quest, you will not share, but instead complete them independently from one another. Mitigate this by coordinating with each other and offsetting the quests intentionally. When receiving a shared quest, if the receiver has already completed the quest on their own, they will only receive half EXP from the shared quest. Therefore, it is much faster to receive a share if you haven't gotten to that point in your own scenario. Plan ahead, but also don't be a complete leech yourself. Lastly, although it sounds great on paper, and it is, don't feel compelled to use it all the time. In other words, it's not necessary for the most part. Did you know that there are a lot of not so obvious EXP modifiers aside from potions? If I'm being honest, they're not a huge deal, but of course these kinds of small additions add up. Check for yourself next time you're in the dungeon results screen. It's separated by hunting EXP, which is the EXP that you get every time you kill a mob, and clearance EXP, the lump EXP that you get on dungeon clear. That's what makes up the total of your dungeon clearance EXP. Hunting EXP is affected by Neopremium and growth contracts, being in a party and or in a guild, playing on the weekend, and coming back after not using FP. Clearance EXP is affected by wearing an avatar set, utilizing a creature, Neopremium and growth contract, being in a party, and your endgame dungeon rank. Also, having at least one level 50 character on your account will give you level 1 Explorer, making you eligible for another 10% EXP bonus. Aside from just hunting and clearing EXP, your actual current level dictates how much quest EXP you can get as well. All of your scenario quests will don a color. If it's red or yellow, you are receiving 100% of the EXP that the quest gives, whereas if it's green, it's going to take a 20% EXP nerf. When a quest is completely gray, that means you're completely over leveled for it and will be taking a 40% EXP hit. In this case, I'd probably just use the clear quest button to get it out of there. Unintuitively though, even if a quest is gray, you can still receive a massive amount of quest EXP due to the system trying to keep the EXP rate proportional to your current level. For instance, at level 70, you might only get 2.8 million EXP in the time gate. However, if you did the same quest at level 82, you'll instead receive 4 million from it despite being over leveled. As mentioned, this is highly abusable for scenario sharing, but overall, don't dwell on these points too much. The key to take away here in terms of EXP modifiers is that there are a bunch of little nuances like these that can make you level faster, even if ever so slightly. So I suppose it would be a little irresponsible of me not to talk about 0 FP dungeons. These are dungeons of which have different entry requirements than FP. Most of that content resides in the Valley of Fallen Souls in the various towers. You've got Tower of Illusion, Tower of the Dead, Tower of Ascension, and Tower of Infinity. Usually it's either gold or some kind of invitation item to get in, but I'll just spoil you and admit while most of these dungeons do indeed give EXP, it's incredibly minuscule and not worth even discussing any further. The towers may have some niche uses on their own, but in terms of leveling, again, not even worth mentioning. There is one other dungeon of which you can enter once a day and doesn't cost FP that does bear attention though. Never forget the Forgotten Lands, and Joe Ferrero here in Underfoot is how you can get there. Now I don't want to go over how this dungeon works, I've already done that in this video here, go check it out if you want to know how to do a proper full clear of it. What I want to discuss though is its incredibly abusive leveling strategies. The dungeon itself is a persistent 30-minute dungeon with infinitely spawning mobs, which do indeed give EXP. Hunting EXP only however, no dungeon clearance EXP, and thus you can leave at any time you want and retain all EXP and items earned. Now even if you spent all 30 minutes frantically killing mobs, I doubt the EXP gain would even be noticeable and definitely not worth the time. Instead, I'd spend your time in there farming for the metastatic crystals used to redeem the prizes given by Joe Ferrero and his box right outside. Again, go check out that guide video for more details on the Forgotten Lands and metastatic crystals. Now generally the items Joe sells are pretty mediocre or just flat out useless. The reinforcers might be nice, but the box here has some seriously broken EXP potions separated by different level ranges. Read their effects. You get a whopping 100% dungeon clearance EXP for your next 5 dungeons. This potion effect is unique as well, meaning that it will stack with other EXP potions. It's actually pretty shocking how much EXP this thing can give in the right situations. Optimally, you'd want to use these potions for every single dungeon that you do, but this strategy can get pretty costly, so if you're not willing to cough up that many metastatic crystals, instead use them at key points while you're leveling, because in some situations it may be more efficient to forego a scenario dungeon and instead do a full clear of a special dungeon, which could yield a lot more EXP with this deadly combination of double stacking EXP potions. Some key points that come to mind are any special dungeons before and including fanatics in the Behemoth region, after which point scenario quests are really going to take over your life. But no matter when you do use these potions however, don't forget to full clear the dungeons to get the full benefit of the dungeon clearance EXP. Also, don't forget that you can use your powerful main to help you get crystals or potions easier for your ults. The exceptional potions in this tab are the same thing at 3 times the crystal cost. This potion is account bound, making it ideal for giving to your ults from your main. Alternatively, you also have metastatic crystal pouches which are tradable and give you a random amount of any crystal. Did you know that DFO has a daily quest system? For regular dungeons, the Otherverse and Ancient dungeons, you are given a set of randomly generated objectives to accomplish every day. Each individual quest also give you a pouch with some trivial items in it such as meteors or EXP potions. For the purposes of this video though, one understated thing that these dailies give you is experience, and a non-trivial amount of it. Now, it's not so significant that I tell you to go out of your way to accomplish these, but what I will say is that it's just free EXP you're throwing away if you forget to collect the pouches and EXP. EXP of which definitely adds up. Dailies reset as expected daily at the FP reset. And with that guys, it about covers everything I know in relation to the systems of the game that can be abused to get more EXP. We aren't even close to being done yet though. There are 2 more videos to come that can give you even more insight. Stay tuned in for when those release. As a TLDR recap of what we've just discussed, here you go.